Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. We have a lot to talk about today, mostly about Captain America Brave New World and its brave new failure. This is the most disappointing, probably most embarrassing finish line that it can cross, which is the one of relevance. It hasn't even reached $400 million yet, and we're going to talk about why and just how much they've come up short. But before we do that, just reminding you, I'm going to be using Shill websites, so take what they say with a grain of salt, with the exception of the numbers, which actually has the numbers. But we'll get into credibility here in just a moment. But before we do, we talk about That Park Place, because that's a place that has a lot of credibility and a brand new VIP section I would like you to check out if you have a couple of extra bucks here or there. Otherwise, let's get on with the show. Here we go. And as we get started, just a quick reminder that I'm on my way to 100K. The only way I can do that is with your help, so look down below. If you're here for your first or your 1000th time, you should look down and see the word subscribe. If it says subscribed, you're good to go. If not, click that little button now, turn on the notification bell, and turn on all notifications, because I do many different videos throughout the week, plus many different live streams. In fact, almost equal numbers of each. And you don't want to miss anything, so make sure you get those notifications. And before you finish up down there, hit that thumbs up button early. Why? Because I know you're going to want to by the time we get to the end. On that note, let's get going on to the shilliest of all shill websites. That's right, it's Collider, telling us that Captain America Brave New World overtakes 3 superhero films at the worldwide box office. Now, this sounds impressive, but it's complete baloney sausage. Why? Well, because, it took over some old films spots. Yeah, we're going to get to that. Also, it's putting itself up against a film that released day and date, not only in theaters, but on Disney Plus Premiere Access, which has only been done, I think, twice. Yeah, not a good look. And even Disney thinks that's not a good look. So let's get to this story by Rual Malorta and hope that I said their name properly. After overtaking Captain America, the First Avenger, both domestically and worldwide the past weekend. Oh, by the way, that film was a very long time ago. Not a good comparative. Captain America Brave New World is set to surpass the lifetime global haul of a recent classic of the genre. Oh, they're comparing it to really bad animation, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Well, I don't think that's a good pick to choose from, but okay. Following that, it set its sights on passing Black Widow, the $380 million global haul film that, as I mentioned before, was released on Disney Plus Premiere Access, meaning it was a day and date release, not only in the theaters, but on Disney Plus. And a lot of people took advantage of paying, I guess, an extra 25 or 50 bucks or something to see that at their home and not in the theaters, because people were still scared of getting sniffles. That's an entirely other conversation, and I hope I didn't offend anybody, because, I don't like the sniffles either. But, I still went to theaters. I went to go see this terrible movie, and all I can tell you is it was not worth the time nor the money, and that seems to be a running theme with the Marvel projects right now, with the exception of Deadpool and Wolverine. But I think we'll have to admit that that was a Fox honorarium of its own, and I think that film can't be replicated anytime soon. And I don't think Marvel's fooling themselves to think they can do it either, because I think the only thing they have their sights set on now is Doomsday, and I think they've given it a wash on Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four backward steps, or whatever it's called. Anyway, we're going to move on. It tried to compare itself to other things. For example, Shazam's $363 million in 2019, but adjusted for $2025, it would still get its butt kicked. And aside from the 2005 Batman Begins, which is only $356 million, well, if you adjust that for inflation, you're just talking pure embarrassment. But we're going to leave Collider alone because, we shouldn't have been here in the first place, and move on to something a little bit more our speed, like this. IGN actually went for the gusto and gave us some math, but it also gave us this headline, so pay close attention. Captain America Brave New World's real budget? Yeah, no, they don't want you to know. And they say you'll never know, and this is why. It's because they're trying to hide colossal failures and flops, and boy, are they succeeding in making them. If you take a look down the list, they even go out of their way to explain that this didn't do very well, either in critical response, fan response, or the box office. In fact, on the latter front, some folks have been doom watching as Brave New World limps along. That's the appropriate word, limps. By the time we get to the bottom here, We'll note they actually start to do some movie math, which is more than I can say for Grace Randolph, who seems to shill just as hard as Collider, but we're going to set that to the side for now. The film, as reported by The Hollywood Reporter, and the reported budget's complete bologna sausage, I think we can agree, was $180 million. And we know that's a lie. We also know that the 22 days of reshoots weren't counted in that. So, because it basically took as long to shoot the reshoots as it did, well, to make the movie, you've got basically another full movie. In fact, the people that actually wrote the book about Marvel, the MCU, the reign of Marvel Studios, has a source that pegged the movie at closer to $380 million. Now, $380 million in production costs, that's fine. You're at almost $400 million, but you're going to have to add another $100 million in promotion. So now you are sitting where? $480 million. 480 times 2, that's your break even. Why? Well, because you have to pay the theaters, so they're 50% cut globally. And you have to remember, this is a global film, except it doesn't seem to be very global in China because it didn't do very well. Moving on, though, at least they give you some actual math, saying with their very moderate figure of $300 million, the total cost would be $100 with promotion, so that'd bring it up to $4. But they don't even add in the promotional cost. No. But at least they tried, and that's more than I can say for any of the other shills. Now, when you get down here at the box office at a glance, I don't even care what they say at this part. The highest grossing movies don't matter to me because they cost an extraordinary amount of money. And yes, they made extraordinary amounts of money, but in comparison, just about what they were supposed to make. MCU is usually good about that, except in phases 4, 5, and wherever we are now. The lowest grossing movies, however, were 2008's, and this is not the worst of the worst, but pretty bad. 2008's $264 million. If you adjust that for inflation, it's $390 million in 2025 dollars. I like how they actually went with inflation. Captain America Brave New World in 2025 is $371 million, and that's not quite accurate. It's a little bit more than that. We'll get to that in a few moments. But The Marvels was the worst of the worst at $206 million. I think they added something to this because $214 million in 2025 dollars sounds just too high. Well, so does 206. But hey, you didn't probably see that. I did. And I can tell you that was a terrible movie. Now, we're going to move on and we're going to get to the heart of the matter, which is ComicBookMovie.com. It's right in the title here. And they're talking about Captain America Brave New World will end its box office run among the MCU's lowest grossing movies. They did not hide the headline. They didn't try to fake you out. This is a pretty good site that I go to. It's in my top 15 for film stuff. So good job on them getting it right and being accurate about, well, the assessment of the film. Now, Josh does try to break the news gently by pushing out a film in front to tell you what the current cinema looks like, which is Big Mickey 17. And this film didn't enter particularly well. I believe it was around $150 million in budget by the time you get to the end of it. And it opened to $53.3 million worldwide. Now that's terrible. Made about $25 million will be nice. And that's not going to get you home on that movie. In fact, it's going to lose easily $100 million. But I have to tell you, Captain America Brave New World is easily going to lose $200 million, if not more. And we'll get there in a second. Brave New World has underperformed in a way that's so spectacular, it's almost absurd. 5 weeks in, and this thing just has not crossed the $400 million measure. And there's reasons for that, and we'll get to it, and they're not as complicated as somebody else would like to make it. But the analysts had predicted somewhere between 405 and 440 now that we have some comparative numbers week over week and what the steady decline is, seemingly with the drop off every single weekend. And it's been following that legend pretty well. If you have been paying attention, there haven't been a lot of winners in the MCU since Endgame. And it's only one. And again, I mentioned it before, it's Wolverine and, Deadpool and Wolverine. And that's it. It was more in honor, to honor the Fox legacy more than to actually edify MCU. And I just have to tell you, I think that's going to be it. I think the only prayer that they have might be Doomsday. But as we build into the next couple of Marvel releases, there just plain isn't any hope. And this film is limping off into a corner to be the worst so far of 2025. It could be the worst of 2025 as far as Marvel's concerned, but I actually think that the Fantastic Four Last Steps might be it. Anyway, let's move on. Let's take a look at what the actual numbers are, because this is where the rubber meets the road. And we always use the numbers for these numbers because they're accurate. They get some pretty good stuff in their estimates and are only off just a little bit by the time we get to the end of whatever counting period it is. And counting right now, $373 million global. It is having the hardest time getting to 400 million. In fact, I suggested it would be crawling over 400 million at best. And well, we might get to that point maybe this weekend. Highly unlikely. And I think it's going to be unseated completely by the time we get to next Thursday. And the 20th, we see Snow White enter theaters. And at that point, it's donezo. Because, you know, half your audience is going to want to see that rather than this, and they'll just wait for this to come out on streaming, which is a whole other conversation about it. Disney is cannibalizing itself, but we'll get to that another time. The theatrical performance for domestic is only $179 million. That is pathetic. That's low. It's terrible. It can't even get to 2. It should have. I mean, we've had, 4 weeks so far, plus you had extra days. You have to remember this is a holiday weekend release during Black History Month, if I remember correctly. So why are we not at least $50 million per week? I mean, we should be, right? Well, then you look at the international box office, where this is the most important set of numbers. Why? Because there's 80 some other markets, or at least 77 other markets, that might want to be taking a look at these films, except they don't anymore. The MCU doesn't have the gravitas in order to be performing at a high level. And you know what? China just isn't interested anymore. I think they almost made $3 million on this film in total. Might be a little more. I don't know, but I know this $194 million is also short of $200 million in all of these other markets. In one of the widest releases we've had so far this year, this thing underperformed to the tune $373 million. $373 million. That's not good. And you're not going to see anything good coming out of Marvel for a while, or Disney for that matter. In fact, the best hope Disney has this year is Lilo and Stitch, which I'm going to talk about in another video. But at least you have some hope if you like Disney. You have no hope if you like the MCU, because I don't think Thunderbolts is going to do very well. I don't think that Fantastic Four Last Steps will do that franchise any favors. And I have a feeling that when we get to Doomsday, you're going to be disappointed. That's all I have to say about that. But hey, there you are with the box office breakdown, especially about Captain America, which I think is done. And I'm more interested now in what you think. That's right, audience participation time. So take a look down below. Make your comments. Let me know what you think about Captain America. If you saw the movie, was it good? Was it bad? If you have anything to say about its box office performance that I may have missed, or if you have hope or no hope for the MCU going forward. And finally, are you going to go see Snow White next week? Let me know those thoughts down in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, share the video out there, make sure that you do make a comment. And until next time, see ya for real.